Hi, everybody. Welcome to Queers and Soaps. I'm Tommy, and tonight I'm joined by Gregory and Dayna.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
We are back covering 3 episodes of My So-Called Life, which brings us pretty much to the end almost, which is sad. But I will roll the credits and we will jump right into it. So episode 16 is titled Resolutions. And I'm like, they were holding on to 1994 like no other. Like, we just got into 1995.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Happy New Year.
But I love the little inner monologue resolutions. And it started with Angela, of course.
Mhm.
And she was just like, oh, maybe I'm not going to be so in my head and selfish or whatever. And I was like, oh my God. Did the writers listen
Lies.
to the fans complaining about her?
Lies.
No, she's a liar. She's definitely going to be exactly who she is. I can't.
Patty's like, she's going to try and be more open-minded and go with the flow.
Lies.
Sharon's like, I will not have sex.
These aren't resolutions. They're just inner delulus.
Sharon's like, I will not have sex until I get married ever again.
Lies.
Oh my God. I can't.
I forgot what Ricky's was. Danielle's was to basically annoy her parents to no end until they let her wear makeup.
Truth.
Forever and always, like, favorite character of all time. On number one.
I was so happy when we got to episode 18, but we'll talk about that when we get there. And Rayanne's was to stop drinking for real this time.
Lies.
Yeah.
Oh man.
But this episode was deep. It was another Ricky episode.
It was good.
It was a continuation of his homelessness.
Correct.
The teacher was back.
Correct.
The one that I said was a little bit off, the English teacher.
Mm-hmm.
Ricky's
putting everything.
Ricky's still staying with the Chases because it's the week between Christmas and New Year's, and we saw the whole, Christmas episode where they brought him home. But he overhears half of a conversation, which because he's 15 and because he heard half of a conversation, he takes it personally and he's like, I gotta get out of here. They don't want me here.
Yeah.
Because like, oh, my aunt and uncle or my cousins called.
And uncle, yeah.
No, I think it was cousins.
Yeah.
And like, I'm gonna go stay with them. And they're like, oh, well, can we talk to them? And they're like, they don't really like
to talk. But he did apologize that they did want to call and say thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's like kind of what he did in the previous episode. Like he kind of half hears conversations and immediately goes off the deep end and then runs away. So it's very typical of Ricky. He's not much of a stick arounder to find out the truth kind of guy.
But we find out because he's trying to get in contact with them because nobody can seem to find them, that they moved and didn't leave a forwarding number. What? Like how? What? Did he always live with them? And they just kicked him out and they moved? Like,
yeah. I don't know. I mean, I assumed he was like there. That was the go-to place, the safe go-to place, and maybe they like we can't handle it anymore, and just like ghosted.
Right.
And then just left them, like, which is really messed up.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously this is the storyline, but like, people do get up and leave in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, who knows? Like, really.
And now it's winter, so it's freezing because it's Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
So he ends up at the shelter, but it's overcrowded and there's some sketchy people in there that's kind of scaring Ricky, so he ends up leaving.
Mm-hmm.
And he he can't be found, and the English teacher his resolution was to stop drinking coffee. So he's a little edgy.
It's the English teacher's resolution, right?
Oh Lord.
And when he
Oh,
goes to
damn.
Angela's house to ask if they know where he is, because he knows that she stays there sometimes, he kind of is short with Patty, and she starts crying. And Graham's like, "Who the hell are you? Why are you making my wife cry?"
Oh my God, this guy is too much. He's too much. He's literally just too much. He's in everybody's business, everybody's face, too much, all the time. Patty doesn't need it, you know. Oh my God.
So he goes home, and we find out that he has a male partner. And I was like, I knew it. He's gay.
He called it.
He had a roommate.
No, he's gay because they wouldn't let them kiss. I think maybe he touched his shoulder.
Roommate.
Because that's all 1994 would allow on primetime television.
Roommate.
A special friend. Uncle so-and-so.
This is my brother's friend.
No, because he said he couldn't risk like the school finding out about him and him getting fired. So that.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, cool. Finally.
So Ricky ends up calling him to tell him that he's okay. Meanwhile, he's just standing in a phone booth.
Yeah.
Which was really sad.
Yeah. It always feels so unnecessary. All the stuff that he's going through.
Yeah.
You know? It always just makes you feel like there's an easier solution to this if he just kind of accepts it. But, you know.
So when in between all of this, when they talk to the counselor, she talks about getting him into a house called Pride House, where it's like a little family, which Ricky was like, "Oh, cool, a family," because he wants his own family. But there's like a waiting list, and her making the call was actually putting him a little bit further on the waiting list, but he still might have to wait.
Yeah.
Hence why he ended up in the shelter.
Yeah.
Trying to think, was there anything going on with Graham and that girl I don't like?
No.
Which, did you notice that they say her full name every time they say her name? I'm like, why do they have to say her full name? Do they do that with all the characters? Because I feel like they call Brian Krakow. Like, they say his full name. Is that a thing?
They do kind of do it. I mean, every time they say Jordan, they say Jordan Catalano. They don't really do it with Rianne or Anne for that matter. Or like the main family.
Right.
But sometimes there's just names that kind of flow right into the last name really easily. And I feel like I've done it a lot. Like, or even people get called by their last name. So it doesn't feel like too crazy, but it isn't consistent across the board, I'll tell you that.
So Angela gets Brian to tutor Jordan, and at first he's like seriously against it, but then Jordan gets him a girl's phone number in like 2 seconds. He's like how did you do that? Like the way they
magic. Like,
he's
wait,
like, he's like, you just did that? Like,
you just did it?
And he's like, yeah. And I like how Jordan was like trying not to say that he has like a learning disability. So he was like, so let's start. He's like, with basics. He's like, even if you think it sounds stupid, let's just start there and then work our way up. I was like, oh, poor thing.
I can't stand Brian sometimes because it's like there's times I feel bad for him. You know, like obviously he has social anxiety issues.
Yeah.
And he's like just like typical nerd person. And then I think he's put upon all the time by all these people, right? That he's looked down on and stuff. But then he does stuff like this. It's where he like literally goes along with whatever Angela schemes to put him involved in. And then he's like upset until some sort of prospect of sexual encounter gets put in front of him. And it's like, all's good. Like, resolve, gone.
Because at the end of the day, he's still a 15-year-old boy.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. Like, there's so many times where I feel like I'm being a little duped by Brian. Like, I'm watching these scenes and I'm like, oh, poor Brian. How could they do this to poor Brian? And then it's like, and then this happens. And you're like, oh, never mind. Brian can go somewhere else.
Yep.
Rayanne and Sharon have their bathroom scene of the episode where they're best friends. And she's talking about like how she can't have sex with her ex-boyfriend anymore because she just feels like she's using him. And Rayanne was like hooking up with somebody at one point, one of the football players, and her ex-boyfriend like followed her into the room. She tried to hide from him, but he like went in there into the room and gave her a teddy bear and was like, "I love you," and she was like, "Hey."
She already moved on.
Apparently, Brad Pitt gets her turned on because she was describing basically Thelma and Louise.
Yes.
And then he's like, "Oh, let's have a movie night. I rented a movie. It's like a Brad Pitt movie." And she's like, "Brad Pitt?" He's like, "The River Wild or something."
A river will be wild.
And she's like, "See you at 7:30." She's like, "See you at 7:30."
The original Netflix and chill is basically what's going on.
She's like, "No, I can't do this. It's wrong. I'm gonna break up with him." And then she's like, "Brad Pitt." She's like, "Okay."
I mean, if you're gonna lay it out there like that, I guess might as well. I was just like, girl, get it. Like, who cares? Like, you know what I mean? If he's consenting, of course, you guys both need to be consenting. But girl, get it. Like, wait and find some when you fall in love with someone else, which
you're allowed.
You're allowed. Go
on. Danielle is keeping to her resolution and bugging the shit out of Patty to wear makeup. She's like, "Well, can I wear it in the house?" And she's like, "Maybe." And she's like, "If I wear it in the house, could I walk outside with it?" And she's like, "No." She's like, "How about just to the mailbox?" Like she's just like trying to chip away at her.
I love her.
She's really the sleeper character of this whole show, honestly. Like, if you I wish, you know what I kind of want is a super cut of every Danielle scene, like of the whole series, like, right, like, so we could see like her particular line, like her plot line.
It would probably only be like 12 to 15 minutes for the whole season.
Absolutely. But it would probably be hysterical though at the same time. Oh my god, I can't. And poor Patty, she can't get a break.
So where are we? Oh, so Angela comes upon Brian and Jordan laughing after this whole phone number incident, and she's like, "What's so funny?" And he's like, "You kind of had to be there," and they're like hysterical laughing. So he ends up showing up on the teacher's doorstep, and they have like this like touching crying moment, and he hugs him, and I guess that means he's gonna stay with the teacher indefinitely.
Oh. It was hard. It made me feel good. I was like, oh, maybe we can actually have that stable living situation now, you know?
Yeah, it made me feel good. Nothing else really happened with this in the next 2 episodes, and we have 1 episode left, so I'm not too nervous that anything bad's gonna happen. But now that I said that, I probably jinxed it.
Well, why would they do that? I mean, like, that would be so messed up. Like, just to get all the way to the season finale to like what drop it all over again. Like, it's kind of I would probably be a melted mess for that. Would you do this to my boy?
So, yeah, he hugs him and he invites him in. He meets his partner, his gay partner,
his roommate,
his friend, his very special friend, where they share a room.
They were in the army together.
What did I say? I was like, why did they always put us in sweaters in the 90s?
We always wear V-neck sweaters.
And khakis and sweaters.
You guys need to soften. Soft, delicate.
They tried to make
unintimidating.
As unsexual as possible.
Unsexual. It has nothing to do with it. Well, I mean, like, at this time, I would imagine, like, 2 men taking a young boy, like, into their like place, living there, like as pure as the driven snow that whole thing was. Like, people are horrific, and like, again, they're all obsessed with what y'all doing in the bedroom all the damn time. It's like, why?
Yeah, I thought it was a really good episode. Definitely, for sure, the last episode. This episode is why it held on through history, because it was a really good episode. all the characters seem to find their groove. They found their place, and they found their maturity in their characters. So it was nice.
Yeah. As far as it could go, I would say,
Right. Well,
as like
right.
as
Of
can
course.
be, but
Yeah.
for sure. You could tell like these are the episodes that probably made this show like the tippity tops of like what it was at the time, like last episode, this one, and so on. It's kind of like
Yeah.
these are the ones everybody's kind of probably always talk about when they think about it.
And probably also Rayanne's overdose episode.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. The heavy ones, the ones that are kind of like, oh, teenagers kind of deal, but not so much.
Yeah.
With like some do, some don't. Like,
Yeah.
obviously, it's a drama, but like and the time, like the mid-90s, like we were talking about kids running away, like drug use, all the stuff. Sex is,
Yeah.
like everybody. It was like all over the place, so it made a lot of sense.
So episode 17, also a very good episode. It is titled Betrayal. Angela
It was that one. This one was rough.
Angela woke up,
Yeah.
and she was like, "Huh, I'm over Jordan Catalano." And I'm like, "Yep, sometimes it be like that. You just wake up and just over it." And I was like, "Wow, they just let her get over it."
But you know how you say those things, right? And then
sometimes it is like that. You're just like, "Ugh, she repulses me because you moved on to somebody else that you're like infatuated with."
It's very yes.
I believed her for a minute.
I believe her.
No, not me. People say that shit all the time, and they are, and like it. What they needed, as in, indeed, she was not actually over him.
I think it's because she had a
Like
dream.
that narrator.
She had a dream about another guy.
And there it is.
I think it was that. I can't
It's
remember.
easier.
Was it the guy that she ended up like wanting to help paint for the play?
Yes, and Ricky kind of had a little bit of a crush on him. We met him several episodes back when he was
Painting his
pensively sitting on the windowsill painting his sneakers.
I was gonna say, was it the shoe guy, the one that we thought was for Ricky, but in reality was into Rayanne?
Yeah.
Is that the same guy? Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we're assuming, we're leaping to that.
I think it is. I'm pretty sure it is.
Maybe.
Oh, it is. It is because Ricky
don't
says
look-
something.
Yeah, later he says it.
Well,
Ooh.
So Angela's like dancing in her room as she gets ready for school. She's smiling.
She's over it. She loves pancakes.
that's not going well. None of this is good signs. They're all bad signs.
The parents are
Happiness
like,
is not there.
the parents are like, smiling? Why is she smiling?
What's wrong with her? Yep.
Oh, they're the
So she goes to
best.
school talking to Rayanne. She's like, "Oh, I'm over Jordan," and Rayanne's like, "Yeah, okay, I've heard that before." And she's like, "No, like
Yeah,
no, this time." She's like, "Okay."
No, this time.
For reals. This time it's for real.
And so there's a school play, the one that the English teacher wanted Ricky to sign up for. And they're having auditions, and does Rayanne want to audition, or is it just like a joke to her?
No, I think she's so. I think there is some bubbling. She enjoys the attention, but like when she got onto stage and actually had to do something with it, she collapsed a little bit. So I think
she just like I think she genuinely wants these things. Like I think in her heart she wants to be on stage, she wants to perform, but like because she doesn't also want to be judged like in any way whatsoever, she makes it into a joke.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no stakes like
I
involved. So
He was like, teach me how to do that thing you do with your lip when you cry or whatever. And then Ricky was like, do that thing Angela does with her lip when she cries. Like it was like a callback to that. And she's like, I don't do a thing with my lip.
Yes, you do, girl. She does.
oh, she like crunches her face. Like it's like almost as if she like gets really frowny and then it like squeaks out.
Actually,
Rewind. Maybe it wasn't a bar. Maybe it was the coffee house where the band was going to perform at because
oh yeah. Okay, yeah.
there was alcohol
That
being
would be
served.
No,
more
no.
kosher.
Oh, it was hidden alcohol?
It was hidden. She had a flask hidden and he was drinking a beer and they were outside and they kind of
Right.
did tradesies. So I think maybe they snuck their own in. It may have been the coffee house.
I mean,
but still,
that
it was a school
makes
night.
more
It was a school night.
It was a
Kids
school
don't care about school nights.
Because Brian,
Here's that teacher in you coming out.
not that Brian willingly went, but Brian definitely would have had anxiety about going to a bar just to like record.
Yeah, I mean, like
So-
if it was the, yeah, God,
So maybe it was a coffee place.
Maybe.
Greg works on the yearbook for his school, and
cool.
when Sharon said, "Make sure the principal's name is bigger than the vice principal, otherwise he'll have like a fit," and he's like, "For real,
For real.
He was like, "No, for real."
Not mine, but for real.
I was also, so it's so funny because I'm a graphic designer, and when I got on the yearbook, it was like one of the first times I actually saw like a program I use like literally every single day. Now it's so funny.
Yeah.
We same deal, but of course we were like all filled with our kids, so we were like, let's do weird layouts that have weird, fun backdrops and stuff like that. You know, like tilted pictures. You know,
Tilted
that.
pictures.
Some shit that literally like nobody cared about except for us. Like we were all just obsessed with having like themes for each like section because it was a tech school. But anyway, still like it is kind of weirdly like Brian was recording Angela a couple like a bajillion episodes back in the many weeks yonder when we first started. You remember when he was kind of like filming her?
Right.
And so I'm assuming this is an extension of that same thing, right? Yeah. Oh.
And he did his 15-year-old boy gross thing when Sharon was talking to him. He was recording her chest.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying, Brian. You get me. You lead me down this path of pity and I care for you. And then you do dumb stuff like this that makes me go, damn it, Brian.
Gross. He had some weird hair change ups in these episodes. Like it looked like he cut it shorter, and then it almost looked like he tried to straighten it a little bit at one point, but it was still so curly. Like it was some weird things going on with his hair in these episodes.
That number from Jordan, maybe you got some advice from Mr. Jordan Catalano on how to get some ladies. This is his attempt to get some ladies with the changing up there, getting it done.
Maybe.
Good for him. Again, like he's trying so hard, and you go, oh, poor Brian, and then he does some gross stuff, and you're like, damn it, Brian, so close.
So Graham ends up caving and going into business with this woman, his classmate. He, I don't remember if it was the last episode or this episode, but he breaks it to Patty. He's like, I have something to tell you. And I guess she thinks he's going to say that he's having an affair. I don't think at this point she thinks with this woman, but she thinks he's going to say it.
Yeah.
And when he says he wants to be involved in the restaurant, she's like, oh, thank God, I support you. I support you. He's like, what did you think I was going to say? She's like, never mind.
Were you like sitting there going like, finally, it's coming to fruition. All of my doubts in Graham this entire time has finally led to this.
I don't want to be right. Honestly, I don't. I just feel like they.
I am like,
why did you show us this? And now I know this about him, so now I'm constantly like side-eyeing him because I think something's gonna happen.
Exactly. I just pictured you in my mind going like, this is it. This is the time. This is when they tell us finally that one scene
there were moments here where I was like, this bitch.
This. I think she's just too flaky.
She needs to get away from him.
Get them on board. They're looking at spaces. She's like, Graham, whatever Brian was right about, whatever her boyfriend was right about you. And he's like, was. And she's like, oh yeah, we broke up. We're not engaged anymore. And doesn't say why. Probably because she's always talking about Graham. Or he knows he's into Graham, even though that hasn't happened yet and hopefully won't, I think. I'm hoping we reach her episode count as far as IMDb is concerned. And she's done.
I felt the same way you felt. I'm trying not to like speak too much on it because I feel like it may manifest. Go like this when he does what he does it. I say it's gonna happen and then it happens, and then poor Patty, like she needs anything else in her life. Please
Even her
save
friend Sharon's mom met her and was just like, I don't like that bitch.
Yeah.
You met her for like 5 seconds. She's like, I don't like her.
That is a good I mean, when your friend don't like her, that's kind of a sign though.
Yeah.
For real though. I mean,
she even like gets into Patty's head. She's like, what did she say? Anger fuels passion. And so Patty starts to notice like he's getting frustrated with this woman whose name I can't remember because I don't want to remember her.
Right.
He's always just like,
I think it's like
annoying. Oh, she's always so late. Oh, she's always this, that. And Patty's like, mm-hmm. And I think maybe that's when she thinks he's gonna say he had an affair, and he's just like, I'm going in on the restaurant. And she's like, oh, thank God.
Well, like that's the thing about the situation though too, is that them getting into a restaurant, like the mechanics and the logistics of doing that in general is going to take up all the time, and you are going to be like this, like with each other. If I ever want to show The Bear, it gives you like a really good, like somewhat of a good, like involved, like understanding of like how much it takes to actually open a restaurant, and it is incredibly long hours, and like you're making all kinds of decisions together and wrapping up your finances together. It's like a marriage, but like a work marriage. So like Patty is on top of it.
Right.
But I don't think Graham ever is going to do those things because, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, he never gives me the vibe he's actually going to do it, even though there was that one slip up. They always keep framing him in this situation where Patty's going overboard, and Graham's actually just incredibly innocent, and Patty's like almost weirdly pushing him in that direction with her neuroses of like, are you? You know what I mean? All that stuff. So I get nervous for Patty because it's like if she keeps going at him and like kind of like manifesting it, like I was saying, like if you keep worrying about it and talking about how much you're worried about something, it almost like makes it happen. Like because you're kind of like framing him before he does anything at all, you know.
You know, and but pretty much, are we? Am I misunderstanding that? We are the only ones that saw that first pilot episode where there was something, and Angela.
Well, Angela did. Yes, Angela, the audience, and Graham. They are the only ones that know about that little like
5 minutes. Yeah. So she doesn't have suspicion, awareness, or understanding.
No.
You know, and I'm still telling you, I think it was just in the pilot, and that probably didn't read well, and then they moved on. Because he's really not, and I know he kind of, was it the second episode, or was it the end of the first episode where he says this has got to stop?
It was the second episode. Because Angela was
it was the next,
Okay.
She walks downstairs, and she overhears him leaving like a voicemail or being on the phone with her or something. And then, I just think it's what you got.
An extension of that, it wasn't so much him, but I feel like the episode after that, Angela was like looking for reasons to be mad at him. So that,
and she was being shitty towards him too. Like she was being
that was kind of like an extension of that. So I feel like they were trying to do something, and that's why I'm very nervous.
Well, I think also the way they position Graham in previous episodes a lot of the time with like the classes, the fact that he wasn't like to quit to find out what he was passionate about, and you just see Patty nonstop being like kind of on his back in a weird way and being nervous about all the stuff, her dad getting in her head, her mom getting in her head, like all these outside forces just getting into her head about stuff. You keep seeing one example after the other of Patty being too involved in her own mind, Deluluville, not seeing what's happening in the real world outside, and then acting upon Deluluville, not what's really happening. And like sometimes she's right, you know, like when she saved Rianne, like she was wrong about when she was not there. Same thing with like the whole thing with Graham. Graham was living perfectly fine. She shoved the class into his face, kind of thing. So like I feel like all that's leading into us to believe that he's not doing anything. But
Right.
the action of them
Yeah.
being around each other all the time is perfectly reasonable to think from the wife's perspective that maybe, and she's super flirty. The girl is crazy flirty.
You know, it's so interesting because
Wow.
I find it annoying, and I just by the way that he says, oh, her, just the way he talks about her being late and the parking spot, that I think that he's annoyed by her. And he's like, I can't.
Well, because I
Right.
have it in the back of my head because of the pilot, and because I now know that she's single, I'm like, fuck that bitch. Do not trust her.
What? And I think you're justified. It's kind of my point. Is that like I feel like I'm up to my. I'm Natalie and Brulia. I'm torn about this thing. It's like yes, I get it. Yeah, it's just, I'm very like of two minds because I see what Patty's seeing. At the same time, like I also remember like Graham is like a guy who's not. I don't think he can hide things too well. I don't even think if that stuff on the street actually came to fruition longer than it did, I don't think he could have kept it under wraps. I don't think
Absolutely.
so.
I think that's why he cracked.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
exactly. Like, I think, yeah, that's why he's like, I gotta close this off because I'm gonna get caught.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think for sure he, as anyone, would be complimented by somebody paying attention to them. I don't think he's a follow. When I say I don't think he's a follow through, or we'll just say with an affair. I think he is.
Well,
he's honored and dedicated to his family.
Yeah, especially now, more so than ever. Like you know, he was unhappy before, and I feel like this is leading to a dream that he's always wanted. So it's kind of like I think what she's again, she puts on things that aren't necessarily there because of what she perceives Graham to think when in reality she has no idea what he's thinking. She can't take him for face value is kind of what Patty's issue always is. She thinks there's more to it than that, and not always. Sometimes Graham's just Graham.
Yeah.
Graham's Graham
But they do
living his life.
But they do have.
Yeah. For sure.
So speaking of sex, going back to Ryan and Jordan, I almost called him Jared.
Jared.
So they're outside and Brian's there with the camera and they're drinking and they start kissing and then they stopped and I was like, okay.
No,
I was like, not okay, but stop. And then he opens the car door and she gets in the back seat and he's like, is this seriously happening right now? And I was like, yeah. And you just see Brian like zooming in on the fogged up window. Titanic style.
Yeah.
So then the next day I was like, oh God, I was like, because remember when you were like, I feel like there's going to be some kind of like sexual assault situation with Rayanne from her drinking.
Something I thought this was going to be more of like a stranger moment. But after, like after when Angela didn't show up for Rayanne that time and they had the break, basically, I didn't think they were really like made up. Personally, like I kind of had a feeling there was something there that I wasn't 100% convinced of, like you know what I mean?
Yeah. So, Rayanne and Jordan both kind of they see each other. They're kind of avoiding each other, but then they bump into each other, and they both say that they were kind of out of it that night. So then I'm like, okay. So they were both drunk and made bad decisions. So,
I think I just my opinion. I think the both of them are.
It wasn't that Jordan took advantage of a drunk
no,
girl. He was also
they're
drunk.
both. No, they're both.
Yeah,
they're like both the two people that could just sleep with anybody, and like it doesn't matter.
Well, she said that she's like it's just like a transaction. For her.
It's just Like, I really think that that's what that was.
That's how Rayanne kind of is, though, with all of her, I guess, encounters. Like,
Yeah.
she's just kind of like the physical action. We have a good time, and that's it. This one just, I kind of like when, like, the way Jordan reacted to her, like, being a singer of the band, being really weird about, like, her being around. There was something odd to me, like, about it. I don't know if there was ever, like, an established situation for me to understand why Jordan had such a, like, an aversion to her. And I don't know if it's because they were too similar, maybe, of people, like,
Yeah,
he didn't like to
actually.
see himself in her a lot of the ways. That's what I was initially thinking this was. But I kind of wondered, like, maybe there was just, like, some unspoken thing. And this kind of, I felt like this was kind of like a mix of that, and then I feel like Rayanne kind of wanted to, like, exact, like, a little bit of revenge because, like, we get Angela, like, over him. It weirdly sends, like, a green light, and then this is kind of what happens.
But
She's using drinking as I don't know.
when you are a dysfunctional person, you misinterpret
Yeah.
signals from your friends.
That and
So, like, well, you're broken up, so that
That's what I'm
doesn't
saying. Like, I feel like there was, like, almost like a door open, but again, I don't know. I don't know.
Rayanne
She
tried
could
the
be
whole
completely different.
Rayanne tried
Yeah.
the whole "you said you were over him" thing, but she knew when she
she
said
knew
it.
because then after
Yeah.
her consequence was that Rand understood that she really did.
Some
mess
people
up.
are just so toxic and they don't know how to stop it, like the toxic cycle, that they just, when they do bad things, they just burn it to the ground.
It's self-sabotagey.
Yeah.
Like, this feels very self-sabotagey. Like, you heard me, now I need to do something to kind of do something that hurts you back in an indirect way that I could also deny.
Yeah.
In a, you know what I mean? Like, that's what this felt like. It didn't,
Yeah.
it didn't feel like she necessarily did it on purpose. She didn't, like, go to him specifically for this thing. It just, she let it fall into place.
So, all right, so let's get to everybody finding out. So, Sharon wants the tape. Brian doesn't want to give it up. And she's like, just give me the tape. And he's like, I don't have it. She's like, Brian, just give me the tape. And then he has to tell her what's on the tape. And
I'm just like, just edit it out. And I'm like, oh, that's right. That didn't happen.
And
I forgot.
Tape it back together. And then,
in my head, that's where I'm going. I swear. In my head, I'm just like, all right, I'm going to take it. And then I'm going to play 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 4 Mississippi. And then I'll be like this, pull it out. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, and then tape it back together. And
well, wouldn't they be editing it in some way anyway? So it makes sense. Like,
they would,
there
but
would had to have an eternity where, like, they would have been able to. Yeah, right. Like, what?
She would have had to have. I don't even know if the right word is upload it.
So,
you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't even know if that's the right word for 1994.
Yeah, they have, like, a machine where you can, like, literally look frame by frame and, like, load the film in.
Yeah.
And you could literally physically cut the film and then put it back together.
That's
what I don't know.
Yeah.
Some high schools have that type of stuff going on. I don't know.
So then, because Sharon and Angela are kind of best friends again, they're on good terms. They're speaking. They're friendly.
Yeah.
She's having this internal struggle, like, if she should tell her, and if, like, she was in the situation which she want to know, and they're, like, approaching a stall, and I'm like, oh god, Rayanne's gonna be in there, but it wasn't Rayanne, it was Angela. So then Angela goes to the play where everybody's painting because she's been flirting with this guy, the sneaker guy, and she's like, I would really like to help paint. But she was very focused on, like, yeah, I'm totally interested in helping you paint. Like, totally interested in helping you paint.
Literally, like, it's like every interaction she's ever had associated with Jordan Callan. Like, even when they were talking, she was awkward, so awkward, like, cringe.
So
Resolutions
awkward.
Can we just say that the previous episode, forgot them. They were all lies. This episode establishes how much of a lie they are all are.
So she's going and she's like, you wouldn't believe what Sharon's telling me. She's like, wow, I really thought she was like over this whole jealousy thing about me and Rianne being friends. And she like tells him about the tape. And he's like, well, Ricky doesn't pull any punches. He's like, it's true. And she's like, what? And he's like, yeah. Like he doesn't even try to hide it.
See, that's why
He's like,
that's why Ricky's the one.
Yeah.
He's the good one. He'll just tell her straight up, like, pull that Band-Aid off, like, right off. Just no sugarcoating. We're not going to pretend like nothing happened. Rip it off. Ugh.
So obviously she and Rianne have it out. And she like doesn't want anything to do with her.
Wait, hold on.
Right.
While she's flirting with the painter boy, I loved how her hair had braids.
Oh, she did Rianne braids and acted like she wanted to drink.
And like leaned in to go kiss him.
Yeah. So
okay.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Rianne ended up getting the lead role that she thought she didn't get. And she was like so excited, and she sees Angela at the end of the hall, and she like wants to tell her. She's like, "Oh my god, Angela, I got it!" And Angela's like, "Fuck you!" Like, so she's like there all by herself. None of her friends want her. Ricky's on Angela's side.
Well, yeah. I mean, dang, girl.
But when she's like bitching about how could she do this to her, and he's like, "Well, you did it to me, to Angela." She's like, "You knew that I liked so and so, whatever his name is, Sneaker Boy, and you've been pursuing him." And she's like, "Fuck."
See, this is exactly why I'm saying, like, for me, it really felt like it was that, like, backhanded, passive-aggressive way of getting back at Angela. Like, not because of this guy. I think the guy is, like, bleh. I think it has everything to do with the fact that she basically ditched her for Jordan Catalano, like, right off the jump for a long time. When during, like, probably the hardest parts of her sobriety. And then, two, like, when she needed her to be there, like, and, you know, in front, so what, probably one of the most nerve-wracking parts of her life, she wasn't being a good friend. Like, but Angela was never a good friend. That's the whole thing. She was never a good friend to anyone.
Nope.
Not one person this whole show has she been a good friend to. The only person that we can probably, not even to Ricky, like, has been the goodest friend to her. And Rianne doesn't really have a good leg to stand on with him either, in my opinion, because again, like, where was she during all of this? Most of the time when he was going through all his mess, what was the first thing she said? Oh, he gets up. It happens. We let it go. So it's like chicken's coming home to roost kind of situation right now.
So during one of the rehearsals, somebody left that's supposed to be reading their lines with Rianne. The English teacher that's producing it tells Rianne to stop acting. You have to feel the emotions, like you just lost everything. You're all alone. And it hits a little bit too close to home for her, so she recites the lines, and he asks Angela to be the one to recite back to her. And it's like
closure.
I thought maybe they were gonna
1994 teenage high school closure.
Yeah, I thought
like saying it without saying it.
I don't know. They were both like crying, and it was like they were saying it without saying it. But I thought, part of me was like, are they making up right now? Like, obviously they're not gonna be like, let's hang out, let's be best friends. But are we good? Like, I didn't know how this was like coming off because then the episode ended. So
they're as good as they can get.
Yeah, I guess you really guess this. I wouldn't be able to get past it. I'd be pissed.
Well, I think it all kind of fell apart, like, already. Like, that this was just another, like, tit for tat situation between the two of them for already. You know what I mean? I think Angela kind of already fucked it up from way before.
I liked when they were talking about it because Sharon's mom knew something was up, but she didn't know what. And she was like, and how did she know? Because Rayanne stopped by the house and she told Patty what happened. And she's like, you must hate me. And she's like, I don't. And then we find out that Patty actually did it to Sharon's mom in high school.
Oh my God.
And then Graham was like, "Wait, you said that you only been with 4 guys. That's 5."
You know, every episode a little bit we find out how Patty. That's why Patty is the way she is. It makes so much more sense now. She kind of was unhinged. Like she not only like did she deal with like a very unruly roommate, she
Yeah.
knew how to resuscitate people back from an overdose. Like she just did. Patty been in
And
some
stuff.
stuff.
And
There's
she
some
probably was like, I made it out okay. Let me
Right.
thank you, Lord, for keeping me safe. I
Mhm.
will now straight and narrow this.
Maybe she's
Right, and then
she's probably
yeah,
like, I don't
and
know
then
how to
protect
die,
my
and now I'm
daughter.
gonna make sure that my kid doesn't die by being
Right? I know all the pitfalls are, girl, don't go there. But it's like at the same time, I do give her a lot of respect because like she does like even in the beginning, not so much because of course, like she's learning, she's a human being, but she does give Angela a lot of what of room, bandwidth to kind of like figure it out.
Yeah,
Like she doesn't really hurt herself too much. And like she just tries to know the people in her life. Like, let me just know them.
I feel like
You
they
know.
let her come and go as she
Mhm.
pleases. They just want to know who she's with.
I'll psych 101
Right.
this. I think Angela's mother's parents were so controlling that she went crazy. And
Yes.
now when she has her own daughter, she is giving her a slightly wider berth, but still
Yes.
safety net.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And I always kept saying, like, Angela doesn't understand like for which the privilege she lives in. She feels confined because there are some
Right.
barriers
That's
without understanding
teenage.
what life without barriers really would be like.
Absolutely.
And then she gets pieces of it, but then sees it in that warped teenage perception where it's kind of like you see your friends who don't have any boundaries. They're like, oh, well, they can just do literally whatever they want until things really hit the fan.
Which is an interesting
Right.
because one of the things that was kind of rolling in my head is the relationship between Angela and Rayanne on how exactly what you just said. Angela's not understanding the safety. We're
Yeah.
adults, safety, and
Too batty.
right, and she is in love with the lifestyle that Rayanne lives, and doesn't have anybody controlling her. And I think the drinking kind of put a realness to it.
Yeah.
Where she's like,
Yeah.
oh no. I kind of liked her. Maybe I liked her because of her wildness, but now I am my mother's daughter.
Yeah.
This is a little scary.
Mhm.
And I think
she has no real idea what real life is. And Rianne lives in real life. Rianne and Ricky live in actual real life. They don't have perfect homes. They understand what it could be like to be living in a situation where there isn't anybody there to catch you.
right.
And Angela doesn't understand that.
One is essentially homeless because the mother is never there to watch her, and the other one is homeless.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And like people who are supposed to be caring for him don't. Like if anything, they put him more in harm's way.
If anything, she's
like they both do. Both of them do. Yeah. Wow.
So those were 2 good episodes.
Mhm.
So episode 18.
Well,
Episode 18. Oh my god, there's only 19 episodes. But episode 18 is titled Weekend. And we open with Danielle having an inner monologue, and I was like, yes, give me this. This is what I want.
I'm like spin-off Academy Awards career.
The realest one of them all.
Yeah.
She's like, my life's so boring. And she's like, I found out like the way that I could hear everything that adults are talking about is just by pretending I'm playing some stupid game. And she's like playing a Game Boy. And you see Patty like eyeing her to see if she's listening, and she's like, pretending to play the game, but she's listening. She's listening to everything.
They're always listening. See, that's like the tip that literally like that is what every parent's like failed like thing is. They always think their kids are not there because they call them and they don't answer. I used to do it as a kid all the time. I'd be like into the TV and my mom would be call my name, call my name, call my name. But like it's the perfect cover. She was so right. Perfect cover. Just pretend like you're not listening. They'll say whatever they want. They're always here. Their ears are open.
So Patty's packing because Graham's brother and his on again, off again girlfriend are going away for the weekend. So I guess like a snow lodge, a ski lodge, something like that. Maybe just a cabin in the woods. Who knows? A B&B because there is a restaurant where they're staying. I don't know. But her and Sharon's mother, who's her best friend, are talking about sex in a roundabout way because Danielle is in the room playing her Game Boy. And she keeps saying, oh, you should wear this will really turn them on, you should wear this. And then she gives Patty handcuffs. And when she opened it, I was just like, her reaction, her like handcuffs were the kinkiest thing she's ever seen in her life. And I'm like, because it's 1990. I'm like, if this was the 2000s, that would be like a vibrator or something.
I was gonna say, like, that's what I initially thought. I was like, what is it in the? I was like, what is it? And then I was really kind of like, oh.
Like blushing, clutching her pearls. She couldn't believe she was holding handcuffs. Like, I was like, okay. Oh,
it was acted about that video. Like, it was almost as if they were watching porn. And it's just like, this is just a very sensual massage video. As close to porn as you're probably going to get on network television.
Right.
You know what? I wonder if it was like something more risque. And they were like, listen, we can be showing that on the TV. Let's put something more innocuous on there if we can. And they're like, handcuffs, all right? Like, okay.
It was an intimacy. Okay. So I think they were having sex. Because Megan and Ricky were watching it and they were both like
well, this was the self-love era of
it was the sensual massage. It's sensual massage.
Oh, so Patty asked her to go downstairs, and she's like, Angela told me to get her out of the kitchen. And she's like, go down there and I'll talk to her. So, like, the minute she steps foot in the kitchen, Angela's like, get out of here. Go help mom pack.
Again, poor Danielle. She can't live her life.
Ricky's there, and the mom seems okay with it. I guess it's understood that Ricky's going to be spending the night there and helping to babysit Danielle.
Yeah.
When she's giving her the whole lecture of like, this is your chance to get me to trust you. You have to act like an adult. You have to watch your sister. The whole speech.
Yep. Perfect setup for, and then she did not do anything.
Yeah. She said, it was funny. She's like, last time, she's like, I watched Danielle before. She's like, yeah, last time you put her in the dryer. She's like, she asked me to.
And how can you remember? How do you remember that from so long ago? Meanwhile, it was probably last summer.
I believe that, though. I believe Danielle would have asked her to do it, and then Angela would be like, all right.
Yeah.
And close the door and she can get out.
And then walk away.
Like, I want to come home to nobody inside appliances.
Which is, you know what? I understand. That's understandable. It's a perfectly reasonable ask.
Yeah.
She's not asking for a lot.
Graham's brother shows up, but not with his on-again, off-again girlfriend. He has a new girlfriend, and Patty and Graham aren't really happy about this. She's a little bit annoying, I guess. Her laugh,
her demeanor, for a doctor.
It's not Patty's type of people, I guess.
She looked like a floozy.
Oh, no.
Graham's late because of that girl. Her car broke down, and he's just so mad because he got his shirt all dirty.
Yeah.
And it's this whole you looked under the hood of her car or whatever innuendo.
Oh, God, I can't. Okay.
So that's in the back of Patty's mind, along with everything Sharon's mom has been planting in her mind.
Of course. She can't let it go.
they they went on a liquor run, and Patty stayed behind, and it was snowing, and they took forever for them to get back, and she kept trying to make friends with the whoever was running the place that they're staying at, and he wasn't really,
He wanted nothing
he
to
didn't
do
want
with
anything
her.
to do with her. And then
Oh my god. The days before smartphones.
Actually correct.
his brother's girlfriend is wearing Graham's sweater, which triggers her. That's another thing she puts in the back of her mind. And they brought some weird flavored brandy to drink because they couldn't find
Wine.
and so they're sneak drinking it at the table because you can't bring your own liquor, I guess, to the restaurant. But so Patty ends up getting sloshed after they kind of say how upset she is. And
Oh my god. Oh, this is great.
she brings up the sweater and over the hood. She's like, "Oh, maybe I need a sweater. I'm so cold."
She has no chill. There is no like relax button for her. She just has to. She can't help herself. She just
Nope.
can't.
Have you ever seen the meme that's like, "This wine tastes like I'm about to bring up something from 3 years ago"?
Like you start to see it happen, and then like you could just kind of like predict how this is gonna go. Be like, our queen is not gonna be able to keep it together.
Oh no.
Meanwhile, she forgot to take the handcuffs with her. She left them under the pillow under the bed.
Oh boy.
Under the pillow on her bed.
On the bed.
Probably purposely.
The key with her, I guess.
I don't think she. No, I think the kids were coming in, and she had to put the handcuffs in the box. I'm probably.
Oh right. Right.
I'm reading into how how the story for the children to have a storyline.
Well, when she came home, she put the key on the dresser. So did she put it in her pocket?
While the kids were coming up, she shoved the handcuffs into the box. She probably had the handcuffs in one hand, the key in the other hand, and closed it, threw the handcuff with the box underneath, and had the key in her hand, and was holding onto it for dear life because she didn't want the kids to see it, because then they'd be like, "Mom, is that a key to a handcuff?" Not that they would have figured it
like
out.
as if they would know.
And she was probably holding onto it for so tight that she didn't realize she had it in her hand until they were in the car.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's too funny.
So Rayanne calls the house to talk to Ricky, and they're on the phone, and she's like, "Wow, she was like really short with me." Like, of course she was. She's not talking to you.
That's what I'm saying. You guys are still beefing. Like, come on.
And he's like, "Call me later at whatever." Later I realized he said the teacher's last name. I thought it was like somebody else's house he was gonna go to after Angela's, like a party or something. But she's like, she ends up showing up at the house the next morning. I'm guessing that was a Friday night into a Saturday. So now it's Saturday. She shows up to see Ricky. She's like, "I called and he said that you didn't come home. You slept over here. I really need the $6.25 that he owes me." So
like, I wanted
to
I wanted to scream like desperate much, girl. Like, Jesus Christ. Could you lay it on any thicker that you're like just bored and that your only friends apparently are hanging out without you?
Meanwhile, rewinding just a little bit, that night, Ricky, Angela, and Danielle were trying on Patty's makeup. And Danielle's monologue was like, I'm having so much fun hanging out with my big sister and her weird friend.
Cool friend.
My
cool sister and cool friend.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. He is cool though. I'm glad he got a moniker.
So Rayanne goes to Ricky, and he's on the phone with the teacher, and he's like, "Yeah, I think he says he's gonna stay the night again or whatever, or stay the weekend." And she's like joking, like, "Oh yeah, I'm here to collect that $6.25." He's like, "I already paid you that." She's like, "I know that, but Angela doesn't." So she's using it as a way to like be in Angela's orbit.
Absolutely, yeah.
She finds the handcuffs under the pillow.
Ooh,
and because it's Rayanne, she's got to put them on and play around.
Of course, she puts them on, and she's and then she uses Grant's voice.
Oh yeah, She pretends to
Right?
be Graham, and she like mimics like how they would be having sex with.
Oh, so in her head, mom put the handcuffs on dad.
Yeah,
Chicka wow wow.
and she handcuffs herself to the head post,
Yeah.
the headboard. And then, of course, they can't find the key, and shenanigans ensue.
Shenanigans ensue.
Patty
Oh
calls
yeah,
her
and
friend
then
to go get the handcuffs, so she stops by with Sharon, and
And Angela proceeds to have a conversation with her on some philosophical conversation, and they're all at the bottom of the stairs ready to put a gun.
and they get upstairs,
oh
and
my
Rayanne's acting like she's sick. She's so sick, and Angela completely loses it and is just like hysterical laughing. And Ricky goes there, and he's just like, she's choking, like Angela's choking. And here I thought, I was like, okay, is this the thing that breaks it? And they're just like, fine, we're friends again. Like, I miss hanging out with you because you're so but like,
yeah. She just like inserts herself into the situation immediately.
she tells Sharon's mom that she's gonna stay there for the night, and she's like, all right, but she's like, if she's not feeling any better by tonight, call me. Fine. She leaves. I guess Sharon stays.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, what's going on? And so now they have to figure out how to get this handcuffs off. So they're like,
more shenanigans ensue.
They're like, I know
more shenanigans.
I know who could probably open it, but do we really want to call him? Cut to Brian, whose hair looked shorter. And he's like, oh, it's really easy if you had wire cutters. Like any normal dad would have it. Mine doesn't. And he's like, I'm sure yours doesn't.
Yeah.
No. And he's like, well, then
coming in clutch.
We'll have to go to like the hardware store on Monday. And they're like, on Monday?
This whole thing was absolutely bonkers.
At some point, she asked everybody to leave except Angela, and Angela's like, I don't want to talk about Jordan Catalano. And she's like, I have to pee. She's like, so can you get me like a bottle or something? Or a pot?
And then the resolution to find the key is to go to a porn store.
Mm-hmm.
And how are these kids getting around? How are these kids getting into pool halls? How are these kids getting all of this booze? Who is watching
also,
these kids?
You can't walk into an adult store without being ID'd first. If anybody's ever visited an adult store ever in their life, like you have to show ID first. Like, like you can't even step inside the building without having to get carded. So like all this stuff is always throws me every time it happens.
So that happens, but we don't see it because of time and network television.
Of course.
So Brian's trying to fit the key in the hole, and meanwhile, Sharon's ex-boyfriend shows up, and he wants to come inside. And she's like, no,
Hey-o.
you can't go inside. And he's just like, I just have to use the bathroom. So him and his friend go to use the bathroom while all this is going on, and you just hear Rayanne saying, it's not going to fit, Brian. It's too big. It's too big. And he opens the door to see Brian hovering over Rayanne because he's trying to get to the keyhole. And he sees Ricky, Angela, and Danielle sitting. So he tells his friend, he's like, Brian Krakow was like doing it with Rayanne, and those three are watching. You don't think that's going to spread over all around school?
Like seriously, like it just goes from bad to worse, like one right after the other, just absolutely leveling up on like the kind of rumor mill that is going to happen the next day. It has to be. I want to be at this point.
So eventually they decide they have to take the bed apart to get at least the handcuffs off the bedpost so Rayanne could be free to walk around with handcuffs around her wrists. And when they were putting it back together, I was like, I feel like Graham and Patty are gonna like fall on the bed and the bed's just gonna fall apart.
That's what I wanted to. I wanted that to happen. Just like them get on it, it just goes.
Because they got away with too much. The house was clean.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Like, did you not notice on how quickly after the handcuffs were taken off of the bed, Rand was like, "All right, peace, chill, later." She like just wanted to grab her stuff instead of, and it wasn't because she didn't want to talk to Angela, but that she was literally one of the things that like stuck in my head in this moment is that Rand does not stay still.
No, she's twitchy. That's what makes me anxious.
She
She's
doesn't
always
stay
been
still.
kind of like that. If every scene you see her, she's always fiddling with something. She's never like
She
just
does-
standing
yeah,
there.
she doesn't stay still, and
Still.
for 12 hours, however many hours this was in TV time, she had to
Mhm.
stay still.
She literally
Mhm.
offered Danielle $1 to bring her liquor from downstairs, and she said two.
Anything brown.
She said anything brown, and Danielle was like, "Drinking's bad."
Yeah, so obviously we're gonna say that Rand's definitely not sober,
Yeah.
like after these episodes for sure. And that is kind of scary being
Mhm.
into the season finale that we still have signs that Rand is still drinking, which is not good.
Yeah.
I'm not looking forward to that.
Maybe we'll.
Uh,
I hope. Yeah. I don't know.
yeah,
So the
I
mom
don't
is
make any crazy.
Patty's
But,
hungover.
mhm.
They've been asked to leave because of the scene she made in the restaurant. They literally had to carry her away. She just wanted. She wanted.
Oh,
Sundae.
darling.
She's like, I
just
want
one
ice cream.
scoop.
Totally hungover. Graham's brother and his girlfriend broke up, so there's that. And she tried to make plans. She's like, "We
They
can't do this again without his brother."
So Graham's brother
PlayStation
is
people, though.
Laura Innes.
Huh?
Laura Innes is the actress that plays Graham's brother's girlfriend is Laura Innes from ER.
Oh,
She's the doctor from ER.
I didn't watch ER that much, but I know who she is. Oh wow.
And
Name sounds familiar.
she was. Did you watch ER at all?
No, not really. It was a little bit before it was probably too serious for the time it came out for me to watch.
Yeah.
So yeah, she was one of the head doctors.
Plus, medical dramas don't really hold my interest for very long.
I was gonna say I'm not a huge medical drama gal.
ER was when
Yeah.
ER first came out, not that it was the first of its time, but it was like a really good medical drama that every Friday there were notes on the refrigerator that this is an ER free zone, meaning you were not allowed to talk because some of the teachers didn't
Spoiler.
they didn't watch it and would literally get up and like leave the faculty room.
It was water coolers.
It was a water cooler show for sure. I remember hearing, obviously it was very famous. George Clooney was in it, all those stuff, but I never watched it. It was just a little too soon for me.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So Patty's hungover. She goes home. This is when she puts, I guess, her keys, or what she thinks is her keys, on the dresser. And Danielle sees them and she grabs them and she's like, Angela. And then she's so happy you're home, and she like hands Angela the key. And then Angela,
again,
oh, I'm so happy, and then just like blocking her so that they could get the handcuffs off.
Danielle, number one, doing her sister a solid. I hope Angela remembers this, by the way, like in subsequent later. Be like, remember that time when all those people?
When Brian came over,
Brian?
We also had the inner monologue that she still has a crush on Brian.
Oh, he touched my arm. We pushed by. Yeah. Oh, she's so cute.
Oh. Oh my god.
And she's like
so cute.
When he was like trying to think of ways to like get the handcuffs off, she's like, he's so hot when he's thinking.
It's so funny. It just like, it feels like we're kind of like going back in time, like, and like Angela this is probably what Angela was kind of like prior to the series starting, and like so it's all repeating itself.
Yeah.
So every time I see Danielle, I'm like always like, poor Patty, she's gonna have to go through it again. It's all gonna happen all over again for her.
So they get the handcuffs back in the box, and Rayanne goes to leave, and Angela's like, "Give me the key," and she's like, "What key?" And she's like, and Rayanne goes, she's like, "I knew you couldn't help yourself." And I was like, "So is that the makeup? Is that the we're good moment?"
I don't know. I don't think it's not that they like. I don't think they need to like necessarily make up. Maybe it's like the same thing like with Sharon. Like they can. They're not going to be like
Yeah.
fighting each other or not talking to each other, but maybe they're definitely not as close
Yeah.
like as they were. And I think that again, I still think that happened. Like they go. This is the end of it.
10th grade, like at any point, one of them could just decide one day to sit next to the other, and then it's like it never happened one day. Like,
Right.
For
The
all
time,
true.
exactly.
But for all the reasons why Angela shouldn't have been friends with her, and probably would have had a relationship with her just passing by, "Hi, how are you?" kind of deal. "Can I borrow your pencil?" But it was magnified by the fact that Angela had such a sheltered life, and Rayanne had this I going back to my statement on how she you know loved the excitement that Rayanne had, but the reality of it kind of knocked her down. That I think that the I was going to say Jared Leto relationship. Now I can't. Now I can't even remember what his name is.
Jordan Catalano.
Put their relationship where they are supposed to be.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think like watching her OD, right? And have that incredibly scary medical event, like literally go to the hospital, get your stomach pumped. That's pretty traumatic to watch, right? And then shortly thereafter, she's like spending all of her time with Jordan, right? And then she misses like out on a very like she's actively not hanging out with her as often and then misses that performance, and that's kind of like the overdose was probably the beginning of the end.
Right.
Also, like again, probably watching how she didn't really give Ricky too much time of day during like a lot of his personal need. It's kind of like to me that would be enough. I would kind of be like, she's not that great of a friend, like if you really think about it. But girl relationships, especially when you're still in high school, they're very touch and go. And like we were talking about, this has only happened just from the beginning of the school year to the new year and just shortly thereafter. It's only been like a handful of months. Like it hasn't been that long.
A lifetime for a 10th grader.
Yeah, I know. It's like it'll feel like an
eternity. June, you have to deal with this all year.
Times 600.
Right. And I'd imagine you see cliques like form and break up and then form in different ways, like so many different times throughout the year. So like this feels very real to that experience. But that's why it's kind of like, sure, can they be talking? Will they ever be that close? I don't know. But again, like Ricky kind of also let Rhiannon like run over him a lot. So I think there's a part of her, especially like with her showing up, kind of feels like Ricky is closer to Angela. Angela's like there for him, probably in ways that Rhiannon never could be because she has her own issues. Yeah. So like jealousy, or the FOMO of it all.
Yeah.
Could be playing a part of this that she inserts herself into, but it's just I don't know. I'm scared for this last episode.
Yeah, we have one more episode for everybody to be best friends.
Right. Or like what could happen? Like I'm really having a hard time figuring out what could happen to these people that hasn't already happened.
Well, so I saw the curly-haired girl that Brian almost dated in the thumbnail, so she's going to be in that episode. And she was also in the yearbook episode in the background. Yeah.
Oh,
so part of me wonders.
Right. Oh.
Part of me wonders if it's just going to be like a random filler episode and then it's just over and we're just like left empty.
For the finale?
Because maybe it was canceled. Maybe there was just like no resolution. I don't want to get my hopes up for any kind of closure.
Well, I don't anticipate any closure. But it feels like it's what I've been conditioned by watching many a
I
TV.
think it was a season finale. It wasn't a cancellation. I think it was a season finale with an expectation that there was going to be a season 2.
Excited.
All right. Do you guys have anything else to add before we say goodnight?
No,
Nope.
I'm
No?
scared. Pray for us.
Pray for us.
We're getting ourselves into.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us for our what's the word? Penultimate episode
What?
Woo-woo.
before the finale. Penultimate.
Oh, you and your Hollywood lingo.
You and your technical words and things.
Yeah, thank you for joining us for another edition of My So-Called Life.
Bye, everyone. Good night, Gracie.
Bye, goodbye. You know what? Goodbye.
As always, you can find us on all the socials at Queers and Soaps. And until next week's finale, have a great night. Bye.
Bye.